Hello and welcome to this video. My name is First Age, not really, and I'm here to talk about the 4th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. And not only am I going to talk about 4E, but it's Renaissance. That's right. It's kind of like a movement, I'm going to say, the 4E Renaissance. People out there are loving and enjoying this game, and they're playing it, and we want to celebrate it. So, as a celebration of 4E, this video will talk just a little bit about why we're celebrating it and why we love the game so much. Perhaps just a little bit about how you yourself can get involved, how you can access and get hold of the game, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about actual play, which would be rather good, because we can talk about these games for as long as we like, but really they need to be played, don't they? So, anyway, 4E. So why? What's this celebration about? Well, the 4th edition of Dungeons & Dragons is a real superhero role-playing game, fantasy game. Your first level characters, they are tough. They start fully formed as heroes. You don't have to wait till 3rd level to get, to a point where you feel like you're something. You really are something from the word go. It's got all the classic classes, and they're very balanced. This symmetry that 4E is noted for is fantastic, and it means that everyone at the table, everyone playing the game, has an equal relevance. You can do cool things, and you can affect the things around you with a thematic difference, but with an equivalent sort of weighting and power, which means that you can pick across the classes, and you know that you're going to be relevant, and not just relevant at the early levels, but relevant and really an equal player right through all the levels, from 1 to 30, which we'll come on to in a moment. The classes are very easy to play, and they're quite a delight to play, and they all come with the well-known thematic powers that, although there's a symmetry to the classes, the way that the powers are described and what they do gives them a very different edge and flavour, so you always feel you're playing something quite different while you have the symmetry that runs through the design. These powers are accessible to you as at-will, encounter, daily or utility powers, and they are therefore very, very easy to apply and understand in play. They give those thematic effects, as I say. So, let's have a look at them. Well, let's have a look at the 30 levels. Perhaps we should do that. So here you can see the class increments. The power progression goes up from 1 to 30. You start pretty good and pretty hot, and you continue to get better and better as the game progresses, which of course is like pretty much all the D&Ds, to one shape or form and in one bell curve or another. So you've got those manageable lists of amazing powers that your characters can do, and you can see them on the right-hand side of this display. And as you'll see, as you go down the levels, yes, you get more of them on each of the categories as you go up, but never too many. So you're not incrementing sort of hundreds of at-will powers, which are things that you can just do again and again. You've always got a manageable amount. And the nice thing about the game is that you can swap them out as you go, so you can start to sort of adapt and change as a character, which is kind of pretty good. The proficiency bonuses, well, in 4th edition, it's, quite rightly in between 3rd and 5th, really. So they increment at 1 per 2 whole levels. So the numbers do increment up. The maths works, if you like, but it goes upwards to give that superhero quality at the higher tiers. But again, it's still quite manageable in terms of your D20 and your plus. We have 3 games in one, don't we? I said that we had 3 games in one. Well, we have the Heroic, Paragon and Epic tiers of play, which you can see sort of segmented here, 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30. And those 3 tiers of play give you, I guess, the local hero, the nation shaker, and then the character that is shaking the very gates of the heavens themselves, possibly transcending mortality. So, awesome. What a game. Now, the 4th edition has, I would probably say, in some ways, probably no more or no less role-playing tools than probably any other edition of 4th edition. But what it does have is some of the best role-playing guidance I think I've probably ever seen in probably any edition, I would say. What it does have in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which I've just sort of flashed up a copy here, is some really great guidance for rich and flavoursome role-playing, and really focusing in on how to create fun at your table as a DM. And it doesn't just look at sort of preparation, which we have here, and setting a game up, but it's also looking at the dynamic of your players, the types of players that you might have, and what they want to bring to the table. So you're always looking at how much fun you can get at the table, and how you can get the best out of the players that you have. But it's not just the Dungeon Master's Guides, which, by the way, I would strongly advise if you're not really a 4th edition person, or if you're not sure about 4th edition, or you role play and love other editions of Dungeons and Dragons, I'd still say it's worth getting yourself a copy of, well, at least the 4th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. It's available very, very cheaply on the Dungeon Masters and the DM's Guild, which we'll have a look at a bit later. It's got some fantastic advice, which would apply, frankly, to any game. I mean, frankly, not even just D&D. So it's wonderful. But it doesn't just stop there. I'm going to just sort of put up a little bit of a picture of the Player's Handbook. And this kind of shows just a small piece on playing an elf. And what I love about the Player's Handbook for 4th edition is it gives you just enough to get you into some thematic role-playing, arguably maybe playing out some of the stereotypes, but really zoning in on the why and getting you to play it to the hilt. The 4th edition is infused with this throughout its text, which I think may come as a surprise to many. I hope it doesn't. But certainly for those of us who love the game, we love how it encourages and develops role-playing. Not only does it do it in terms of the way that the mechanics are set up and the way the game is structured, but also in the way that the game is set. Really, for me, pushes out really dynamic and evocative role-play. So the core of the game comes with its own setting, and it's a fantastic setting, which frankly I think it has got such a lot going for it, and that is Nentir Vale. Now, the Nentir Vale is a place where, if you like, it's points of light. That's how it's described. Points of light of community and civilization in a dangerous and unpredictable world. Because the world is sputtering. It's on the edge. The empire has collapsed. And really, the player characters stand out as those that are able to go from one point of light to another and affect change, making a difference, protecting, discovering, changing the world around them as they themselves as characters grow through their interplay with the environment and with each other, and gaining and growing in understanding. It's absolutely brilliant. Yes, there are, of course, other settings in which you can play Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. I mean, some of the ones that were published are Eberron, Forgotten Realms, of course, Dark Sun being some examples. And, of course, any that you may choose to create yourself, as is the case with all the D&Ds, and indeed any role-playing game, pretty much. So that's fantastic. So, role-playing, right at the centre of 4th edition. Perhaps 4th edition is better known or more commonly known for its amazing, rich and intense tactical combat encounters. Exciting, inventive, using the monster and player character powers that we talked about to affect the outcome in really dynamic and memorable ways. Here's a picture I wanted to show you of a recent game, just as one of the aftermath of one of the encounters. This is on the Roll virtual tabletop. The game plays out on a grid, or most easily on a grid, with everything basically as per other Dungeons and Dragons, but just in 5 feet lengths. So they're in sort of squares, and it ably services this through any virtual tabletop, I would say. The example, as I say down here, is is the one of the ones I use, which is the Roll virtual tabletop. And of course physical battle mats too, particularly when we can actually get to play around a table again. And I hope those days do come back very, very soon. In 4th edition, combat is meaningful. It's kind of like, I would say it's like an investment in time and energy and excitement. It's an opportunity to role play whilst in the most deadly of battles, where the outcome is certainly never certain, accepting that you've got this designed context because of the ease with which you can build encounters in 4th edition. Now, once you've acclimatized yourself to 4th edition, and it doesn't take long, it didn't take me long, I've found that a major combat encounter in a game will take you somewhere between 1 to 2 hours of play. And that's time that flies by, I would say, as all characters provide, again, their abilities and their roles in achieving a successful outcome to that. It's dangerous and it's exciting and it's dynamic in play. And it's hugely absorbing in play. It really is. And I'd say that possibly it may be true to say that just as it was originally conceived, I think, the Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition plays brilliantly on virtual tabletops. I mean, absolutely. They were made for each other. But I'm looking forward to getting it out on the table and playing around with friends. Probably that table, actually, as soon as I can. So, as with all Dungeons & Dragons, of course, it's a team game. With player character classes and monster types providing suggested roles that in various combinations will affect how you act out the most critical of combat encounters. So I did mention the 4E encounter design. It is simplicity itself, balancing up opponents with a simple XP range spend. That's how you do it. You just basically spend your experience points. It gives you, the DM, that sort of reasoned control and sets any combat in a designed context, which is really useful. You can push it. You can push it up. You can push it down. Make it easier by spending less points. There's no accounting for the D20, of course. It can scupper anybody, but at least the DM can set the stakes and have confidence in what they're putting out for their players. Now, I'm going to also pull out something around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out actually a monster stat block. I'll do that next. This is a picture of a monster stat block. They are very, very easy to read. That's one of the key things. This is a classic example of one. They are easy to read and parse at the table. So everything you need to know about what the monster can do is found right there. There is nowhere else to go. There's no cross-referencing or having to go off and work out what that means. It's literally on the block, straight there. It's easy to access, it's easy in play, and therefore it speeds up everything because you've just got everything you need at your fingertips. Really, really well done. And I think that probably comes to another major plus of 4th edition, not only in the way that it's presented, because I think presentationally it's a masterclass, actually. It's brilliantly done, beautifully done. But it's really easy to run. I mean, really easy. From encounter design, which I've mentioned, approachable presentation, information is all clearly set out. You've got skill usages that are really well explained, so you've got a very clear idea of how to use each of the abilities and the skills. It's probably proved the easiest for me to run of any of the D&Ds, which, I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Even with the tactical combat. So it's noted for this sort of a very absorbing tactical combat, which plays out and makes use of a whole range of the powers, feats, and abilities of the particular classes and characters. But the 4th edition is so well designed that it kind of manages that very much in its stride and leaves you to get on and enjoy that absorbing play and the huge fun that goes around it. So, awesome, fantastic. But another feature of the way that the game is looking to blend the sort of game and the narrative, if you like, is, of course, another feature of 4th edition, which is very, very well known for and has been much copied since, is skill challenges. So I'm going to talk a little bit about skill challenges. They provide, a codified way, I might say, of structuring role-playing with skills and being executed in play to make an actual game running in the background. So you'd be playing out a scene, They'll be called for particular roles. They will affect something in play. But in the background, you are progressing or perhaps regressing within a challenge which will have an overall outcome. And these, of course, can be interlaced on top of the combat encounters that I've mentioned. They can be a little bit hard to do well. I think that's probably a fair shout, I would say. But when they are, they sing so well. And they provide, again, as I say, that mechanical element to the role play. Nicely done. Well done, 4th edition. You're doing really, really well. So, lots of amazing reasons why you want to get into 4th edition. If you haven't tried it, give it a go. It's just a great game. It's a great game. It is very much at the superheroic end, I would say, of 4th edition. Lots of cool powers, signature moments, that kind of thing. And done with a huge amount of style. So we're celebrating the 4th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. But I would say that as much as the 4ER movement is celebrating and banner waving, we're not remotely interested in anything about edition wars. We don't care about any of that. We don't want to put down any other editions of the game whatsoever. There are so many great versions of D&D out there. And let's face it, all the editions that we have are, I would say, generally built on the shoulders of their predecessors. So, we've got a lot to be thankful for in previous editions. And that would also apply, of course, to 5th, the current edition of the game. So, no, we would stand with our friends who are supporters and banner wavers for their editions of D&D in all their multiplicity. And I've just put out an image of a few of the examples that are out there. Anything from, the original D&D, anything through the basic expert or BECME run, all the clones that are out there who are looking to emulate and work around particular edition designs, through the sort of core line of 1st edition Dungeons and Dragons right up to today's 5th edition. And indeed, I would say some of the close cousins, the sort of Pathfinders, DCC, 13th Age, and of course others that I won't have represented on there. We would celebrate all of those in a way. Yes, we're banner waving for the 4th edition, but all those editions have their adherents, their advocates, their own players and groups and DMs, their own games and their own fun. So 4ER would say to them, well met, friends. Enjoy. So, so let's have a look at 4th edition again a little bit and just look and see where we can get hold of it. So the 4th edition is available on the DM's Guild, the Dungeon Masters Guild. It's available online. You'll find that if you just type in Dungeon Masters Guild, it'll take you there. I'm sure you know where it is. Or indeed drive through as well. It's a nice shop front there, the DM's Guild. They're all virtually, most of the line there is available there in PDFs. It's a little bit inconsistent. You can also get pod copies, print-on-demand copies of some of the titles that are on there. If you wanted to pick up, I'd say reasonably cheaply, a good quality physical copy of 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, you can pick up some of the titles, not the core 3 books, unfortunately. They're not all in pod for, some strange reason. But some of them are. Then I strongly advise it. I've got 1 or 2 of the pod copies from the sort of drive-through sort of Dungeon Masters Guild site, and they're good. So they are good, and they are hugely affordable. And of course, you're getting the electronic copy as well as the physical copy. But if you're just wanting to pick up the PDFs, strongly recommended as well. They are highly affordable. I mean, the trilogy, I can't quite remember what they were, but they're not a huge amount of money. If you buy the 3 core books, or indeed some of the Essentials line, then you can do that for not a great deal of money, and then you've got the game and you can start playing. Mixing, matching is also possible across the whole range of the history of the 4th edition. So the core game, the Essentials line, you could just pick up the Essentials line. It is fundamentally still all 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. There are some slight differences in terms of the design, but I'm playing in a game right now where we're mixing and matching across all of them, and it just works. So it's absolutely fine. So do enjoy it. So there are copies out there. It all fits together very well. And of course, another option to you, I guess, is obviously going out onto second-hand market. So it is possible to do that, and I've certainly done quite well out of that as well. So there you are. So certainly, and I would strongly encourage you to take a look at the game if you haven't done so. If what you've done is you've just heard some of the sort of talk on the internet about the edition, that might well have put you off. Quite a lot of the talk is quite ill-founded, in my view. And what I've found is a fantastic game, and it plays extremely well. So take a look at it, and even if you're only investing, let's say, in the Player's Handbook, give it a look. I think you'll find it quite good fun. So I suppose in some ways, what I would say is yes, we've got a great game, and yes, it's still available out there, and yes, lots of people are playing it. But let's make sure we are playing it. I suppose with all the versions, let's make sure we're playing them, because that's what we really want to get on with, playing the game. So yes, we're promoting this glorious edition of Dungeons & Dragons, but really we want to get it to the table, virtual or otherwise. Increasingly it's been virtual, and that's been fantastic. We're looking to see the game out there in streams online, so people can just watch the game, see the play and play, get a flavour of how it plays out, as well as continuing to be played across the globe in our various groups. More to come. But the world does need heroes, and the 4th edition of Dungeons and Dragons gives you that really, really well. Yes, you can get it at DM's Guild, but get out there and play it. That's very much what we're looking to try and do. Encourage people to play the game and enjoy it. If you're here and you wanted to know more about 4th edition, then send me a message perhaps in the chat here. I'm very welcome to talk to you. There's lots of places online that are celebrating and playing 4th edition, so I'm sure hopefully you'll be able to get yourself a game. More to come then. So the world needs heroes, and on that note, I'll sign off and say welcome to the 4th edition, and welcome to the 4E Renaissance. The world needs heroes.